Okay, so could you please introduce yourself briefly
Sure.
to those who may not know who you are?
Yeah, sure. My name's Clinton Bader. I go by the gamer ID Paperthin. I'm a professional esports broadcaster living and working in Seoul, South Korea. I've been doing it for just shy of 3 years now, focusing mainly on FPS games like PUBG. I've recently done Valorant. I've done some mobile games as well, PUBG Mobile, Clash Royale, Summoner's War. So a lot of different games. There is Summoner's War. There is,
wow.
yes, there's Summoner's War esports. It's quite interesting, actually.
Okay, great. So, let's jump into the esports questions. Basically, 2020 has been a year of very unexpected change for a lot of esports, right? But obviously, PUBG actually started the year with a whole bunch of changes in plan already, with the whole getting rid of the global series and whatnot, which was then changed to the continental series due to Corona-19. So what would you say, how would you say that the scene has fared this year in terms of your opinions on its success?
Actually quite well. Getting rid of the global series, I think a lot of people were nervous about that and kind of unsure about the future of PUBG esports, but they had some plans, they had some ideas of what they wanted to do, and they wanted to kind of allow some third-party people to get more involved in PUBG esports again, like DreamHack, GLL, companies like this. And I actually did GLL in Sweden at the very beginning of the year, like right kind of as the COVID thing was kind of kicking off. And so they were starting to do that, and then the COVID stuff happened, and they kind of realized they needed to do something. And so they put together the Continental Series, which has been actually quite successful. It's been really well received. It's got 4 different regions that it's covering: NA, EU, APAC, and Asia. And so I'm doing the Asia region, but all of the regions have had very good viewership numbers as far as those things are concerned, and they've been quite enjoyable for the fans and the players alike.
Cool. So do you find then that the scale back, which has been forced to happen, has made the scene more accessible, do you think, like for people who don't necessarily know where to begin when it comes to getting into the whole world of PUBG esports kind of thing? Do you think it's definitely done that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of the events now have open qualifiers. So the global series was kind of limited because you only had so many teams involved, and then they did have qualifying systems, but it was more like Premier League soccer, where you had to get to that top level by qualifying through the bottom levels first, and then if you were at the top level and you did bad, you dropped down, and then the other teams would replace you. So there was kind of a barrier in the way for some up and coming talent, so to speak. Now with the addition of a lot of third party events and other things, there's a lot of opportunity for new players, new and upcoming players, to get involved, as well as new talent and other things, new orgs. We've had quite a few orgs kind of come and go, but it seems like now there's a lot more interest, there's a lot more eyes on PUBG esports, and I think, especially for players, I think it's really good. I have a lot of players now who message me and be like, hey, I want to play in these scrims on this server, or hey, I want to play in this tournament, who do I talk to? And these are players who I've never personally seen in an event, but I'm excited to help them because it's an opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. So then, given what 2020 has turned out to be in terms of what PUBG has managed to achieve, what would you say is your highlight, if you will, of the year in terms of esports?
I think for me, actually, the highlight was getting the PUBG Korea series back on in English. So the Asia series, I think with the way things were going to fold out, we're going to be, they did 4 big events, 4 majors, if you want to call them that, for PCS for Asia. And so I've been kind of the PUBG Asia guy for quite a while. I've been doing a lot of the events on my own stream through Twitch, and, doing China, Korea, Japan, Chinese Taipei, some APAC, a lot of different regions. So, I've been trying to keep up to date with all that. And so when I knew there was going to be an Asia one, they contacted me right away and they said, yeah, we want you. And I said, that's great. And then after the first PCS Charity Showdown event, they were like, we want to do Korea again in English. And that was really exciting for me, because I had just been doing that on my Twitch channel, just not always by myself. I've had people come in and help me as a co-caster from across the sea or something like that. But it was exciting that something that I built, they were like, all right, you've done really good. Here's, we're going to put a real show back on.
Yeah,
So
we
for
wanna
me,
take
that
this
was,
into-
me, that was really exciting.
No, I can imagine. And especially, I think so many people would be so happy with the accessibility that allows for Western audiences to take part and like watch, because I know it's very difficult as someone who doesn't necessarily speak the language. Even though you're just following the game, you lose so much of it not being able to understand like all of the commentary and all that kind of thing. So I think that's definitely a plus.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been really nice. And, I've been watching the teams and players, and my Korean's okay. Like, I can get by, but it's not fluent. And so I've been fortunate that I have a lot of players and coaches and staff in Korea that actually speak pretty good English that help me out if I have any questions or anything. They're always willing to help out. So it's been good for me. I've had, like, good people who've really helped me as well.
Yeah. Okay, and so then what would you say, we've talked about highlights, what would you say would be the main takeaways and like learnings from the 2020 changes that have had to be made that you think the scene should definitely take on and keep in mind? Because obviously this was things that were, their hands were forced, if you will, but there have been great things that have come out from it. So what do you think are things they should have definitely note and take on?
Yeah, I think first of all, like, the Continental Series is a good idea. I think having each like region, so to speak, like NA, EU, Asia, APAC, having their own leagues that kind of combine every once in a while to have a big event, I think is really has been really successful. And then moving forward, you can still have those big majors, those big international lands once everything is, kind of settled down, and just have a couple of those a year. You don't need to have like an entire global series just dedicated to like qualifying for these majors. I think kind of let it happen organically, let it grow, keep letting these third-party events happen, because those are a big deal for up-and-coming players, and even players that are maybe in like the mid-level of the pro scene who are kind of not quite at the top tier. Like the top tier players, they can make pretty good money, but the middle, it's a little harder for them. So have these events available for them as well to kind of, keep their income going and keep their ability to be a professional player there.
Yeah, I agree. Especially with the importance there on the third party involvement. There's a lot of scenes, Blizzard scenes that don't necessarily allow the third party involvement, and to be honest, I think it kills a lot of them. It really has like such a stranglehold on it that it's really difficult to break. So yeah, I would definitely think going forward that's something all scenes should keep into note. So then looking ahead, we say that for 2021, it says that we've got the PUBG Global Invitational that's been announced. We're back to the offline tournaments with the quarantine time built in and all these kind of things. Do you think going ahead, this is how we're going to do it from now on, or do you think it would have been better to stay online? Like,
yeah, I think it's okay to do it once or twice a year. I think more than that, it's going to be way too much for the players and the staff and everybody involved in the event. That you have to spend 2 weeks in quarantine somewhere, most likely, if you're not doing it in NA or some places in EU. It kind of depends on where you go. So yeah, if you come here, you got to spend 2 weeks in a hotel just by yourself, more or less, and then you get to come in and do everything. But even then, I imagine they're going to be pretty limited in where they can go and what they can do, probably, just because they're going to be they're probably going to make it a bubble, kind of like what League of Legends did for their worlds. So I like the idea, and I think for 2020 or 2021, as the vaccines and everything start to happen, I think by the end of the year, you'll probably see this as more of a formality than a necessity.
Okay. How do you think for the Korean scene, obviously, there's some not so great news with the potential closure, or if it's going to be merged, who knows, with OGN. How do you think that's going to impact the Korean esports scene as a whole? Because OGN obviously is such like a tentpole for everything esports related here.
Yeah, it's very sad. I mean, I've worked there quite a bit, doing Clash Royale, Summoner's War, and so it's hard to see. I mean, I loved working there. They're great people, just awesome place. Like, esports history is there, the Esports Hall of Fame is there too, and everything. And so, yeah, it's hard to see that happen. Going forward, I think there's going to be a lot of kind of scrambling to fill the void. I already know, like, I hear things in the background that there's quite a few companies that are really trying to step in and kind of pick up some of the events and things that OGN was doing. So I don't think there's going to be any slowdown in the events that are happening. I'm a little, interested to see how the quality of it is going forward. I know companies like Afrika TV are going to be incredible. Like Afrika TV is always amazing. Like their production is great. They were right there with OGN in terms of like doing a great job with esports production. Then there's going to be other companies popping up here and there, and it's going to be really interesting to see how they kind of are able to either adapt or not.
Yeah, I think what you said about the quality is like a big thing, because OGN was so just like, it was like the standard, right?
Yeah.
Like that was what everyone should aim to be doing. Not everyone managed to hit there. I feel like I was spoiled with OGN because it was what I saw first, so I kind of thought, oh, this is what it's all like.
This is how esports should be, right?
This is what esports is. Okay. Okay, so looking ahead, what do you think will be the future of esports in Korea in terms of its scenes? Like, do you think there's going to be new scenes that are emerging? Do you think Valorant's really going to pick up here? Do you think Summoners War is going to pick up here?
I think Summoners War, let's start with that. I think Summoners War is always going to be around because it's already been 6 years. I think the game has been around, and it's got a pretty established scene. A lot of the best players in the world are Korean. The top player on the ladder is Korean, actually. So yeah, I think Summoners War is okay. I think a lot of games are okay here. I think esports is still big enough here, and when I used to do some English teaching here in Korea, actually, and I talked to the kids, and still so many kids, their dream is to be a professional esports player. And so I don't see it going away anytime soon. I think the one problem is outside of the LCK, you do have, I think, maybe too much diversification. You have just too many esports. So I think there's going to be, I think there's kind of a bubble growing, and not just in Korea. I think this is actually throughout a lot of the world where there's just too much esports, and I think there's going to be kind of a consolidation. For Valorant, I think there is a future, but I think it's going to be more Asia-oriented than just Korea-oriented. I think they're going to do if I was them, what I'd be thinking about is doing more Asia-oriented, where I get Japan and China, Chinese Taipei, Hong Kong, all these places involved as well, because there's quite good Valorant scenes in some of these areas, particularly Japan. And I think it'd be cool because you really can only do them online right now. So why not kind of do those? And I think that would get pretty good viewership and be pretty interesting. So I think I've noticed that's kind of been the trend this year for, I guess, first-person shooters particularly, but a lot of esports is going a little bit broader picture, not just a small country, not just Thailand or not just Indonesia, but like the whole region, which I think is smart, because I think you're bringing better quality and better talent, and you're also bringing more viewership.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, interesting. So then if we take the scope right back down to PUBG, as a PUBG personal question, if you will, if there's someone out there who's looking to get into the PUBG esports scene, and there's a lot to look at, essentially, are there any iconic matches or tournaments or anywhere that you'd really suggest for someone, yes, watch this, and this is, you love it, this is where you will fall in love with PUBG esports?
Yeah, so I'd say there's 2 or 3 that really come to mind off the top of my bat. The first one would be, just for a cool moment, they're at the Face It Global Summit, which was done in 2019 in London. There was a match that was played where a player, his whole team died. It was I think it was 17 Gaming, and or they got blown up, but I think it was, I can't remember who the teams were, to be honest. This is so weird. Oh, it was 4M. Okay, I thought it was 4M, and I wasn't sure, and he went against it. Okay, anyway, so let's go back to this. Okay, so so there was a moment at the Face It Global Summit in London in 2019 where a player from 4AM who went by Captain, the rest of his team got destroyed very early on in the game, and he was the only one left, and he just kind of snaked it out. He hid and just waited until the end of the game, and then came up big and killed 4 players in an instant with 1 grenade, and then ended up winning the round by himself. So it's kind of one of those first moments in PUBG Esports history where everybody's like, whoa, this is amazing. And so that's the one that I would start with. I still think that's the most viewed PUBG Esports clip of all time.
It's like the Daigo parry of PUBG.
Exactly. Yeah, the Daigo parry of PUBG. Yeah, 100%. And I might be a little biased because I was casting this game, so
You should have led with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll put a disclaimer.
I know. I guess for me, it's like the games that I remember are the ones I did. But also, the two other things that I'm thinking about would be in the PUBG Global Championships semifinals, the very last game where FaZe Clan had to put up a monster game, like get a ton of kills and win, and they were able to do it. And it was one of the most insane things I've ever seen in PUBG esports. So I would definitely go and watch that one. And then I'd say the other one to watch would be at, I think it was PCS 1 North America. The team Shoot to Kill came through and won in another like last game, like end of the tournament situation where they had a crazy finish to the game and ended up winning by, like, they were tied, and the tiebreaker in PUBG is kills, so they ended up getting more kills than the other team and ended up winning. And it's just a crazy cool game, and PUBG put some really good content together for it, where they actually put like the players' comms and like what they were saying in that. It's really good.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check those out. I've always wanted to get into it, but again, like you said, it's not so much that it's oversaturated, it's just there's so many places to look and start that it can be a little bit overwhelming for someone who doesn't necessarily know where to get in. So I'll definitely check out those 3 moments. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, and I'd say if you want to get interested in PUBG esports, start with your region. Like, find a team or players that you like and kind of focus on them, and then kind of watch where they go, who they're talking about, who they're watching, because all these players know each other across the world, and they'll talk to each other, and you'll see them interact on social media and stuff. So, you know, find somebody you like and kind of latch onto them. Whatever region you want to if you want to latch onto Korea, that's great. But you know, if you're NA or EU or whatever too, that's perfect.
Cool. Okay, so that's the end of our esports question section. We have a couple of personal questions, which sounds heavier than it is. Which sounds way heavier.
Like, what's your social security code?
Okay, so you said you've been in your career for about 3 years now. How did you get your start of all things?
Sure. So my first kind of dipping my toe into the water of esports was playing Halo 3 like semi-competitively or semi-professionally, whatever you want to call it, way back in like 2007, 2008. I was like playing in some MLG events, online and offline, just kind of here and there as much as I could. I was working a full-time job too, so it was kind of hard to, I just graduated college, and so it's kind of hard for me to really get fully invested in it. But I was loving esports. I had been watching StarCraft Brood War on the internet. This was like way back when Tasteless and Artosis first came to Korea and started doing their thing, so I was watching that. And yeah, so I've always kind of loved it since I was younger. I actually like played competitive X-Wing versus TIE Fighter when I was in high school. This is like before esports was even a word. This was back in like the early 2000s. And so I've always kind of like enjoyed competition, particularly in video games. And but then I kind of, real life kind of got the best of me, and I just couldn't afford to keep devoting all this time and effort into Halo, and I kind of had some other interests I wanted to pursue, so I started a band with some people, and like I was playing, locally in the Midwest, and then that kind of fell through, and then I was living in America doing IT for a while, and it kind of just started to get old and boring to me, and I was kind of getting frustrated with living in America for a lot of reasons. And I decided I needed a change, and I've had some friends that have lived here in Korea for quite some time, 10 plus years in some cases, and I had come out here a couple times for vacation to visit them, and I really liked it out here, and I had spent a couple months in Japan as well, and I was really enjoying Asia. I really felt comfortable here. Even I would travel on my own and I'd be totally fine, and so I decided to give a go of living here in Korea. That was the first kind of step. That I wanted to live here. And then, so I taught English here for a little while, and on the side, through some of my friends, I started doing some side work for Afrika TV, just some like proofreading and other minor things just to help them out here and there. And in the meantime, of course, I'm still playing tons of games. So PUBG comes out, and I play the heck out of it. I just absolutely fall in love with it. I think it's a great game. I think it has a ton of potential as esports, and I'm really interested in it. And then Afrika TV decides they're going to do their own PUBG League, and so they want to do it in English, and they needed somebody who knew the game because a lot of the other casters were just already booked and busy. They didn't have anybody who really was invested in it, so they talked to me, and I put together an audition tape, sent it to them, they liked it, and so I started like 2 weeks later.
It was meant to be. Like, just the space suddenly opened, and you were ready to fill it in.
Yeah, and I've always been good at public speaking and those kind of things. I did forensics in high school, and I've never had any problems in front of a camera, in front of people, like, playing in a band, you're in front of people. Or
you're used to performing.
Yeah, I played the oboe in high school and university. I actually had a scholarship to play the oboe in university. And I was like first chair and like all that stuff or whatever, and so I'm used to it. Like, it wasn't a big deal to be like, the focus of attention in a way.
Interesting. So that was how you started your career in Korea. Obviously, you've had like a really great, illustrious like things behind you.
I know that's not true.
No, for real. For especially like in the PUBG scene, like it was like a lot, like very storied for the time that you've been working in it. Obviously, you find a lot of success in working in the Asia region. Would you ever consider going back and trying to pursue that in the West?
I would prefer not to. That being said, if there was an opportunity, I would absolutely, would take it. If there was something that I just couldn't turn down, like a very large global league, similar to like the, to the League of Legends World League or something like that, where they wanted me for that, then yeah, I mean, I would be a fool to not turn that down. But personally, I do prefer living in Asia. Like, Korea is especially like one of my favorite places. I just feel very comfortable here.
Yeah. What is it about then the Korean scene and the Asian scene, I guess, if you want to take it really wide, that you really love and love working in?
I think there's like a dedication and like a kind of a comfort level with everything, where this has been done for so long here that people are just kind of used to it. It's not like a big deal, and it's not something when you go up to someone on the street in Korea, or like let's say you have like a new doctor or something. He's like, well, what do you do? And I'm like, well, I'm a esports broadcaster, and he's like, oh, okay. Like, there's no like, like some people are like, what
esports?
What? Like, they have no idea what you're talking about. But here, it's like kind of accepted as part of the culture for a lot of people, and so I like that. I like that there's like a dedication to the craft and to the being a professional, whether that be talent or player. And there's like even esports hagwons, which are academies coming up here, and all kinds of infrastructure is built to let esports succeed and thrive. Especially here, China now as well is very big in this. So I want to be in this area because I think this is where the real heart of esports is.
Yeah, it's definitely the heart of esports. I think I agree with what you were saying about it being so established here. And one difference that I see is that the esports here doesn't have to prove anything with its production or with like anything that it's trying to do, which it's just so stable and it's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so on another personal note, is there anything in particular you're playing right now that you're really enjoying? Or?
Honestly, I'm playing Genshin Impact.
Okay.
I'm a little like embarrassed. I'm like,
cut it out.
No, it's kind of it's a fun game, and like, I mean, I had already been kind of exposed to the gacha system because of Summoner's War, so like I knew what to expect. So I'm not throwing a lot of money at it. Like, I do like the battle pass they have because I'm like, well, I really like this game and it's fun, so I'll give it a little bit of money. It's worth my time. And I liked Breath of the Wild on Switch, so and it's very similar to that. So it's kind of fun in that way. It's got a little like nuance to it that makes it, I think, a little bit better than Breath of the Wild in a lot of ways. But
controversial.
I know. I know. A lot of people are going to be like, wow, I thought we liked you. But I'm playing some of that. Some Among Us here and there, of course, just with friends. I still play a lot of PUBG and Valorant. I like first-person shooters, like, first and foremost, so that's kind of where I'm at. I've been playing some Cyberpunk. I'm kind of mixed feelings on it. What else? There's a new game that just came out here. I can't remember what it's called, but I've only dabbled in it. It's some, like, MOBA-esque thing that's really popular in the PC bongs. Yeah. But I can't remember the name of it, to be honest. Like Eternal something or other. My friend like recommended it to me, so I like installed it quick and tried it. But I don't know if I'm gonna get into it. But
do you play a lot of Korean games at all, like Korean developed?
I guess for Korean developed games, I've played like some Point Blank, which is like a crossfire-esque shooter. It's very minimal. There's no like economy system like in Valorant or CS:GO. Summoner's War, I play a lot of Summoner's War now. I've gotten really into that actually since casting it. I've actually found it to be a really like intriguing and in-depth game, even though it is a gacha game, so there is some kind of level of difficulty in getting ahead. It either takes a lot of time or a lot of money, so that it is what it is. But I don't know. Other Korean-made games, I'm trying to think if I play any. I can't think of any off the top of my head. PUBG, I guess it's not exactly a Korean-made game. It's
Oh, Korea likes to claim it. So
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
we'll take it.
Yeah.
And this is just, I'm curious to hear what your opinion on this is. Obviously, Korea is seen as such like a bastion of talent and whatnot for esports specifically. But yeah, as you said, like a lot of people struggle to name Korean games that have been developed kind of thing. Do you think, like, why do you think that is, that there's this like disparity between how seriously Korea takes esports as like a career, but there doesn't seem to be necessarily the same focus on output of games that said esports players can do?
Yeah, I think it's more the game development industry is more mobile game focused here. So I think in the future, I think you're going to see a lot of the bigger companies be coming out of Korea, like PUBG Mobile, for example, basically came out of here. And some others that I think are going to be coming out of especially with like gacha type games. Those have been really popular here in Korea on mobile for quite some time, and now they're starting to be recognized as esports, potential or whatever you want to say. And I think in the future, I think there's going to be more of that. I think mobile gaming is going to become more and more popular for esports. So, and I think that's something that Korea does have in spades. But I think for PC development, for whatever reason, it never really took off here, and I don't know why that is. I'm quite surprised now that you mention it. Now that I think about it, I don't have a good explanation. I hadn't really actually put those pieces together in my head, so now you've got me thinking, and that's a great point you make. Honestly, that why is that? I think there's quite a bit of good development here in Korea and a lot of good developers, but I don't know why they haven't really focused on games. I think there's been other priorities, and especially because like this was one of the first countries to really take advantage of mobile technology. That I think that's kind of where a lot of their focus went, because they had Samsung here and LG, and these companies are making some of the first smartphones, and they need that infrastructure around those larger companies to provide them the content and apps that they need to make their devices successful.
That's interesting. I'll get back to you when you think about your
answer. I know. I'm really now. You've got me really
email.
thinking.
We can edit it in.
Yeah. No. I'm really thinking. Now I'm really thinking.
So yeah, that's all the questions that I have specifically for you. So
Sure.
Thank you so much for
Thank you.
sitting down and discussing this with us. Is there anywhere that you would like to tell people to find you specifically, or any projects you want to shout out or anything like that?
Yeah, sure. You guys can follow me on social media like Twitter, Instagram, at Paperthin here, all one word. Same for Twitch. Paperthin here is my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Paperthin here. I don't do a lot of social media, I'll be honest. I'm kind of a private person. I don't know. I just don't get really excited about social media, but I do post stuff, especially when I'm working an event. You'll see a lot posted. So if you want to follow me to keep up to date with events, that's a good way to do it, because I do post a lot about events that are going on in Korea, Asia, that I'm either interested in or working in, and I do a lot of casting on my stream too. So you can come check out that stuff.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.